Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and in this video we're going to be thinking about how to read chords from a lead sheet, but in particular thinking about extended chords and chromatic chords that do sometimes just cause a little bit of confusion. So we're going to just take a handful of bars of a very well-known jazz standard and think about how it works in this piece. So you might well know the song Fly Me to the Moon, which goes like this. And so on. So that's the bit of the song that we've got notated here. And of course, in this particular style, you can be a little bit free with it. You can change the rhythms, you can change a few chords, you can position chords slightly differently, whatever works for you within reason. Obviously, maintaining 4 beats and a bar is a rather important fundamental, but it's a free style. There are various different ways of notating chords on a lead sheet, but there's some pretty standard stuff going on here. So obviously, if we see something like this, it just says F, that's a major chord. So F major chord. If we see something like this, a slash chord, that's telling us that the left of the slash is the chord, so it's a chord of F, and the right of the slash is saying put it over G in the bass. So we have an F major chord, but put G in the bass. So that's how a slash chord works. Slash chords are often used to describe inversion chords, but sometimes this thing about putting a chord that's superimposed on a different bass note, as we get a bit of that here, you can see how that's working. Okay, now then, minor chords, they're fairly straightforward. If you see a lowercase m, that's telling you it's a minor chord. That's kind of the basic thing about major chords, minor chords, and slash chords. Now, of course, we've also got some other chords. So when we see this circle there, that's one standard way of describing a diminished chord. You might see dim, dim, something like that. But if you see a circle, that's diminished. There are other things that you might come across, like if you see a triangle, that's a way of saying that this is a major chord. So it's just kind of telling you here that we're dealing with a C major 7. If we had C7, we would play C, E, G. So it's a major chord of C, C, E, G, but C7 would have a B flat in it. So if you see that triangle telling us major, that's saying it's a chord of C with a major 7. So it's a B natural on this particular occasion. Okay, so circle is telling us about diminished chords, and now we've done about the triangle telling you that something is major. So it's not particularly, in this case, the chord, it's a C major chord. So we've got that there, but this triangle is attached to the 7th, saying major 7th. Okay, so hopefully that makes that one nice and clear. If you see this sign, a plus, that's telling you that we're dealing with an augmented chord. So a G chord would be G, B, D. If we augment it, it becomes G, B, D sharp. And of course, we've got plenty of extended chords here. So obviously things like DM7. Well, D minor, DM, D, F, A, put a 7th on it, you get a C. So that's how the extended chord thing works. You might have something like this, where you're thinking, what on earth's going on here? Well, B minor, BM, is B, D, F sharp, and we're also being told that there's a 7th, so let's put a 7th on it. But then it says flat 5. So you look at that F sharp that you would have in a B minor chord, flatten it, you get F natural. So hopefully you can see how that one comes about. Here's another one. A7 brackets, flat 9. So what's an A7 chord? An A7 chord is A, C sharp, E, G. The ninth would be B, but the flat 9 is a B flat. So this is really an exercise in chromatic chords. I mean, we're using chords like diminished seventh. That's what this really amounts to, because if you work out this chord, it's C sharp, E, G, B flat. That's a diminished seventh chord. So that's one of our chromatic chords. We've got things like tritone substitutions going on. So in case you're thinking, well, if we're in the key of C, what are we doing with the D flat 7? Well, that's a tritone substitution going in there before the C major 7 that follows it. So we've got chords like that. And these extended chords, lots of them in this, where you've got sevenths and ninths and so on. You've even got a 13th there towards the end, that are just enriching the harmony. So as long as you're happy about that kind of approach to it, you're in business. Now let's just go through the specific chords. So we're starting with A minor 7. So that's A minor, A, C, E and G. And then obviously you've just got to work out how you want to space it. So you can just put down a chord for first, just to get the idea of it. Then we talked about the next chord, which is this C sharp diminished seventh, and then we're moving straight on to a D minor 7, so that's D, F, A, that's D minor, the 7th is the C. Then we're coming back to the previous chord, the C sharp diminished 7th, and then we're going on to the D minor 7 chord again, so you've got the repetition of those chords. And then going into bar 3, we've got a G7 chord there, so that's G, B, D with the 7th as F. And then here's that tritone substitution, a D flat 7 chord. And then on to that C major 7 we talked about. Now, interestingly, what happens in this bar, you get the C major 7 followed by C7. So remember what we said was the difference there. C major 7 is C, E, G, B natural, but C7 is C, E, G, B flat. So during that bar, you're going to move from B natural to B flat. And then one of the straightest chords in the whole song coming up is just a chord of F, so just work out how you want to space it. And then we've got this B minor 7 with a flat 5 that we talked about. So remember B minor, B, D, F sharp, the 7th is A, and then flatten the 5. So F natural. Then here's an E7 chord. So E is E, G sharp, B, put a 7th on it, you've got a D. And then a straightforward A minor. I mean, you could elaborate that, make it an A minor 7 if you wanted to, that's up to you. And then a slightly richer chord at the end of that bar. So we get an A7 plus a flat 9. So what's that about? We've got A, C sharp, E, that's A. The 7th is G, flat 9, B flat. So we're going from A minor and then we're kind of enriching that chord by putting all those other notes in. We come into bar 9, we're back to a D minor 7, we've met that before. Then as we go into bar 10, do you see what happens? The D minor 7 continues, but we put a G in the bass, that's a slash chord. All right, so you've got one chord there and something else in the left hand. And you know, why is that there? Well, that G is a kind of dominant preparation for the C that's going to come in the next bar. Just adds a bit of tension having that D minor 7 with a dominant G that doesn't entirely belong to the chord. And then you've got an F slash G. So there's a slash chord saying F major chord with G in the bass. And then we've got this G plus 9 chord, haven't we? So you've got your G augmented, so G, B, D would be a G, so G, B, D sharp would be your augmented chord, and then you can stick your extension on the top of that. And then you've got C major 9, all right? So you see what's happening there? That's the C major, C, E, G, the 7th is B, the 9th is D. And you might want to have the 7th in there as well. You might just want the 9th without the 7. It's up to you. You could slip in some passing notes that take you from 9 to the 7, be another way of doing it. And then you've got an A minor chord here. Well, of course, with this G in the tune, effectively makes it an A minor 7, doesn't it? A, C, E, G. And then the next chord might be slightly puzzling to some people because you're thinking, why have I got this B major chord with a D sharp in the bass? So it's a B major chord in first inversion. It's just a nice bit of colour because it's coming before the D minor 7. So you get this bass just going down a semitone into that chord, which is a kind of classic jazz thing to do, just to give us a bit of chromatic movement there. The D minor 7 we've already met before. We've already met F/G before. And then we get this chance to put in a 13th there. Well, what's the 13th? G13. Well, G is G, B, D. Then the 7th is F, 9, 11, 13. So we're going to get an E in there somewhere. When you kind of organize a 13th chord, it's easy to over clutter the chord because you don't want all those notes of the extension. But these are the essentials. If you're going to do a 13th, have a root, have a third, have a 7th, and have a 13th. So have those and strip out the rest of it if you want to. And then you get your D flat 9 coming in here. Interesting chord, isn't it? D flat 9. So you've got D flat, F, and A flat. Well, the 7th would be C, but the flat 9 would be an E flat. So if you want to have that 9th in there, followed by the C major 7. Okay, so I hope that kind of explains how those chords work. So if you are wanting to work with this and get those chords under your fingers, then working through as I've just done, just so you're sure about the chords, is the first step. And then it's kind of like, well, can I plonk those chords down under the tune? And so on. Then, of course, you might want to get a little bit of rhythm into it, or you might want to get something like a walking bass going. That's another way of doing it, isn't it? You can take the right hand up an octave, you can do other stuff with it. If you've got someone singing the song or someone playing it, then you don't have to knock out the tune. You can just concentrate on doing some chords, doing some rhythm work. If you're going to play it as a solo, well, you want to have that tune somewhere where it's fairly well focused. But I hope that just kind of shows a way of actually how do we read chords when they're beyond the basics. So that's extended chords where you've got 7ths, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, and chromatic chords where you've got things like diminished 7ths and a few chords that maybe don't belong essentially to the key, like that B/D sharp thing. Adds a lot of colour, makes it much more interesting than just going through a song with C, F and G or something. And then you end up with a nice harmonization, and your job then is to think, what am I going to do in the way that I play this to space the chords so the spacing sounds good, it's not too thick and grumpy in the left hand, that's easily done, and it's not too static, so there's a little bit of movement going on, whatever that is. So you end up doing whatever you want to do, but maybe something like this. And on we go. So I hope that's helpful, just to kind of get you into doing something a little bit more kind of fancy, something a bit richer with extended chords and chromatic chords, knowing how to read them and how to start working with them. And if you've enjoyed this video, you might want to go to our website to see what other riches you can access. So www.mmcourses.co.uk. If you click on courses, you'll have access to all sorts of material, theory, harmony, analysis, orchestration, all sorts of things that will help enrich the musical journey. So have a search there, see what you can find. And while you're on the homepage, you might want to click on Maestros. Maestros gives you all sorts of perks if you want to join our global community of musicians. A wonderful group of people, all sorts of different stages on their musical journey, but lots of people who join us say, you know, I've just been doing my own thing for all these years and now it's great to be connected with other people who've got the same questions that I have and want to study together. So lots of perks, badges, emojis, early access to YouTube videos, behind the scenes material and so on, and access to monthly live streams. And when we meet together each month, there's a solid hour of teaching from me where we really go into depth on something in a much more extended way than we've got time for on one of these videos. And also there's an opportunity for people to hand in their own work if they want to. Your own composition, your own arranging, your own recorded performance, and I'll give you one-to-one evaluative feedback. And then by sharing that with a whole group and a live chat running as well, we all get to interact and learn from each other. So it's a terrific thing that people who join really, really enjoy. So I hope that's helpful. Have a look, see what's there for you.